Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Sufficient Grace. I'm Pastor Jason, and just want to remind you that we're on James chapter 4 now, and I'm not going to take a lot of time. We're going to try to get through as quick as we can, as quick as possible, so we can move on and not take any more time as is necessary, because we want to be able to move on, but I also felt like it was necessary to cover these things, so I wanted to cover them as quick as possible. But we've already been on for several weeks, so I want to try and get through in these next couple weeks, like maybe another 2 weeks or so. Try to get through James as quick as possible, maybe 3. Maybe 2 may not be a reasonable goal, so I'm going to say maybe 3. Maybe within the next 3 weeks, get through the book of James, and then we can move on to the next thing that we're going to do. So just wanted to remind you of that, and so we're going to get through James since we've already been on for several weeks now. So without further ado, James chapter 4. Okay, and I'm going to read the first 4 or 5 verses. So here we go. What is the source of quarrels and conflicts among you? Is not the source your pleasures that wage war in your members? You lust and do not have. So you commit murder. You are envious and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, so that you may spend it on your pleasures. Your adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is hostility toward God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Or do you think that the scripture speaks to no purpose? He jealously desires the Spirit which he has made to dwell in us. So, the book of James, in James chapter 4, there's things that we need to avoid as Christians, right? Our own selfish desires, conflict, worldliness, but we need to be, rather than being selfish and, worldly and having all the fleshly, selfish desires, we need to submit to God and be humble. We need to be followers to God. We need to be followers of Him, and we must be humble. We must humble ourselves and resist worldly temptation and the devil and draw closer to God through prayer. So, God, as we know, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. So believers should seek God's will rather than boast about uncertain future plans. This chapter also admonishes believers against judging fellow Christians and to stop knowing the good one should do, but failing to do it. Okay, so with judging and admonishing other believers and uncertainty about future plans, everything that we do is centered on God and God focused. At least we should be as Christians. It's very important that our life and our lifestyle, everything that we say, everything that we do, is all centered on God and God alone. But being that we are sinful, we have sinful human nature, the sinful human nature oftentimes comes out, and then we find ourselves in sin, and we find ourselves in a place where we never intended or never wanted to be. And so we end up becoming really no different than the world, because our characteristics, we don't let our characteristics be any different than what the world is. So then it becomes this thing where, we're letting the worldly desires come out instead of getting filled with God. We should be so filled with God that what comes out of us is godliness, God's love, the humility of God that is within us, right? Because that's how it needs to be as Christians. We can't just, we are in the world, but we're not of the world. And that's the key thing that we must get here, is that we're in the world, but we're not of the world. And we need to be different, as followers of Christ. As we claim to be Christians, followers of Christ, then we need to portray Christ attributes and not worldly attributes, not our own fleshly desires. Okay? We need to proclaim Jesus. Jesus comes out of us more than anything else. He's the only one that should come out of us, because as Christians, that's a very important attribute that we need to portray, is we need to portray Christ and not ourselves, not the world. So, so that's James chapter 4, and it's very important that we really get this into our hearts and start living it out, because if we don't live it out, then we're no different than the world. So by God's grace is enough. God's grace is sufficient for you, and that you can live your Christian life victorious. God bless. Have a great day.